Welcome back to another episode of Launching Us. This is a podcast where we talk about us becoming small business owners and kind of the journey it takes us to get there. So, Rose, how's your week? You been good? Everything's been going gravy for you? Smooth?
Yes,
Not smooth?
everything's great.
Everything's great.
I want to talk. I'm really excited about.
Right into it, guys. No chit chat for Rose.
No chit chat from Rose. Today, I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about our weaknesses. Guys, I am so excited to talk about this because a lot of people view weaknesses as a bad thing, or their weaknesses that they recognize often keep them from doing what they really want to do because, right, the weaknesses come along with the fear behind it. And so I'm really excited today to talk about weaknesses because for us, weaknesses were an opportunity for us to grow, recognize where we were short and grow from there. So I'm really excited about us talking about this specific topic. And I hope that this can be an encouragement to you that you view your weaknesses as an opportunity.
Yeah, that's good. I think too is like we're able to talk about this now. I don't think because we've overcame it.
No, absolutely not.
I think because we've won the battles enough time to be like, okay, we kind of got a handle on this. Mm-hmm. It's still something that we struggle with on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis. But I definitely think it's something that we got a handle on. And because of that, we're progressing forward. We're moving forward in this business. All the last 6 episodes have been about how we are now with book reading, getting rid of negative people in our life, understanding our why, like a lot of those things.
A little bit of our journey at the beginning. Yeah.
But what we haven't shared was some things that we've kind of struggled with and some of the things that we just were weak in.
Yeah.
And
we were short.
Yeah.
Or we fell short. Yeah.
I'm going to come off with mine first. And my biggest weakness is I just always felt less than. I just felt like I wasn't capable enough. I felt like I was not as smart, not as educated as everyone else in the world. I always felt, even within our relationship, I always felt like I was the reacher and Rose was the settler. If we can like go to the How I Met Your Mother terms real quick. I do. I felt like I was reaching for something. And in doing that, I really belittled myself without anyone else doing it. And so there was a lot of times where I just felt short in comparison. And so, when the thought process of starting a business, that was my biggest thing was, man, maybe I'm not good enough though. Like, I'm not so-and-so, or I'm not as business savvy as so-and-so, or I'm not as wise as so-and-so. There's a lot of things like that where from myself, I just thought like I wasn't that guy.
Yeah.
Even in my inner circle as my friends, like I felt like I was the goofy one, which I am. But I felt like I had to be the goofy one, the one that would go out, the one that would say the most inappropriate or the most wrong joke, or I would go the furthest just to kind of fit in. Because I always thought like the other 2 guys that I hung out with, which is coincidentally both named Davids, I always thought they were just better than me. And it kind of hindered a lot of my progression in life. And so like, that was my biggest thing on like in general with a lot of stuff is just, I just never felt like I was adequate enough. Yeah. And over the last few years, I've been overcoming that little by little. And so, yeah, that's been my biggest weakness. And so, what's a weakness that you saw in me? I'm man enough to ask that question and kind of hear what you're going to say, as long as, it's nothing in the bed. But what are some weaknesses that you saw in me?
Oh man, that is so hard.
That's what she said.
Okay.
Sorry.
Juan is the funniest person I know. So I don't know, man. I think the biggest weakness for weakness that I viewed in you was your lack of self-confidence in yourself. I think we've talked about this in the podcast before where I was like, oh, I know you could do it. And I just viewed you not doing it. I think it goes back to that imposter syndrome, and I'm really just so happy that we're not like a million miles past it, but we are moving in a healthy rate past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that you've been by reading books and by
we'll get to how we overcame it in a little bit. I just wanted to hear.
Yeah.
We do have weaknesses. I know we kind of over the last couple episodes we feel very confident. We've talked about a couple of things where it makes us feel strong and we feel empowered. Especially my wife, she's been really feeling really more empowered and strong. And even last week in the episode, one of your friends, Loria, was like, I love how passionate you sound. And even another friend who wrote down in the comments, a friend, Dorothy, a good friend of ours, I lived from high school and now she lives in Seattle. She even was just talking about how like she just loves when you talk, that it always reminds her of the song. I've never heard the song. Maybe I should play it and listen to it. But that you just have a lot of good support group around you and from afar. Yeah. And so I think that's a really cool thing about, being on YouTube and posting our podcasts on YouTube is that we get friends from all over. You have family members. You had a couple of family members this week actually asked you for the link. And it's been good. She had had an uncle that said, your husband interrupts you a lot. So if he watches this, okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. It's a podcast. It's a conversation. And so, but what are some things that you've noticed like in yourself? What are some weaknesses that you've seen for you on like not going through with things or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I can say pretty confidently that within myself, I'm very self-aware. I try to be very self-aware. I think that I kind of am on a constant study of myself to make sure that I'm not lacking somewhere. And if I am, then I address it. And so going into this journey, I did a lot of like research on myself, right? Because I have to be the best version of me to move forward in this. And there was a couple things that I noticed that I was like really lacking in, right? So one was that I think I've mentioned this in other podcasts, is that I am dyslexic, and as are a lot of people, right? So I needed to know that when I was studying, that I was researching, when I was diving into understanding the photography and the videography world and understanding marketing and understanding all of these different dynamics that I was going to have to learn, right? On top of reading and studying for my real estate, I knew that I was going to have to use techniques that would benefit me as a dyslexic person, right? And the other thing that I think I had to really understand, which may sound really, really weird, is that I can be overly confident. Okay, so let me explain that. In the field that I was in, I was an expert. Right? Like I went to trainings weekly. I was always looking to better myself in that area.
Taught trainings.
Yeah. And I trained people. It's part of who I was, and I love teaching. Mm-hmm. But then going into this field, I can tend to be overly confident in everything that I do. And it can be sometimes almost arrogant. And I needed to remind myself that you're not arrogant. You do want to be confident, but you don't want to be overly confident to where you're making mistakes constantly because you're not listening and you're not paying attention to what really needs to happen. You're beginning right now, And I think that I don't know if this is something that people would view as a weakness. I knew for myself, I am not one to I knew for myself, I'm not one to hold back punches against myself. I'm really good at trying at least to correct myself. And I didn't want to be overly confident, make mistakes constantly on the front end. I wanted to take it slow, remind myself that this is a weakness, that I can emotionally get excited, and I need to kind of remind my emotions that my brain needs to be in control right now. I need to learn and absorb as much information.
Yeah.
So I think that what most people would be like, oh, she's overly confident. That's great. There's overly confident, and then there's overly confident making mistakes, and overly confident because of emotion. And I didn't want to be one of those people.
Yeah. I think weaknesses are such a big thing. You said in the beginning, like weaknesses is a really good way to like
grow.
It's a great opportunity for growth. And so like, but weaknesses are such a pitfall to go into. They're so, it's like quicksand in a sense. Like we kind of fall into it, and then we kind of like start meditating in that weakness, or we start believing into that weakness, or we start, that's it. We start really believing what that weakness is, and we think we can't change, we can't grow. And so we kind of fall sinker. And then we're like out of nowhere, we're just stuck.
Yeah.
With like believing in your weaknesses. You begin to start believing in that weakness so much that you forget all the stuff that you have that depends on you, that wants to see you believe, like you believed in me so much. And it's like, no matter how many times you said, Juan, you can do this. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. I still saw my weakness, and everything else didn't matter.
Yeah.
And so for me, like I needed to do like some personal work for myself, understand what my weaknesses are, grow in that, and start basically tearing down that wall that was stopping me. Mm-hmm. Because other than that, it was stopping me from doing so much more that we were capable of.
Yeah. And I think that is so interesting. I think about like when we talk about our weaknesses, I think about like how what you're saying, like how it keeps you from doing the things that you want to do. I know that for me, being dyslexic was really keeping me from completing the classes that I wanted to do.
Let me ask you a question, because I don't think I've asked you this question. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how dyslexic do you think you are? Because you haven't really done a test for that. You just know some of the signs and you've seen it. Like I think I am, like partially.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. What I can tell you is that I was studying, and it was very difficult for me to read. It was very difficult for me to concentrate. Mm-hmm. And when I looked up the symptoms that I had, they were either the issues that I was having when I was reading as well. They all
kind of fell in that category of dyslexia. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to look into tools that will help me and benefit me in this area.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they helped. So, I used those tools to help better me this way around. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I made a plan. I used Spotify, not Spotify. I use Speechify. I use our Apple computer that you click and
highlight, right click, speech,
and it reads back. Yeah. When I start getting antsy when I'm reading, I have a medicine ball, or like it's a yoga ball, and I like sit on it and I bounce while I'm reading. I rub my fingers together while I'm reading and read every word along with them. There's a lot of little techniques that you can do, and I utilize all of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go back and I'll role play the examples that they give, so that I get some of that motion or that hands-on understanding.
Yeah.
Which probably makes me look crazy when I'm doing it by myself in my office. But I mean, hey, I don't mind looking crazy to get the information that I need
I mean,
retained.
you've been doing good on all your exams and your tests and your quizzes. So like,
Yeah.
it's definitely paying off and it's working.
Yeah.
And so like, I think there's things that we kind of like, once you identify that, hey, these are weaknesses, you might not even know what weaknesses they are. You might have someone like my wife telling me there was weaknesses, but until I start to realize what those weaknesses are for myself, she can tell me all day long what I might have or what my problems might be. Until I handle it and I start doing it, they're always going to be there.
Yeah. And I like that you said that, because here's the truth. We all have, I just mentioned 2 weaknesses of all of the many weaknesses that I have. I think I've mentioned, the fear that paralyzes me sometimes, or the fact that I tend to listen to people's voices whose voices shouldn't hold weight, or like there's so many weaknesses that you can have going into being a business owner. You're comfortable because you don't have to work extra and at the current job, but you have this dream, you're going to go to be a business owner, and then you find out, hey, I don't really like working extra.
Yeah.
That's considered a weakness. We have to change our mindset. The same way we change our mindset, it's the same way we tackle our weaknesses, right? We go for them and we say, no, these are no longer going to be weaknesses. This is an opportunity for me to grow. This is an opportunity for me to capture what I think is weaknesses and turn them into strengths.
Yeah. One of the tools and resources that really helped me out, especially this year, because I think in latter years I had counseling, I had a therapist I would talk to, not regularly, but I would talk to. I probably should have done it regularly, but I would talk to occasionally, maybe twice in the year, like twice group sessions in a year, and doing that has really helped me out to kind of process it, talk some things out. But one of the things that really helped me out going into this year, 2022, is that I got a life coach who's really a good friend of mine. He asked me about, hey, what do you think about doing this? And I was like, yeah, I think that would be really helpful. I think that's something that I know I would benefit from. And in a way, he spoke into my life. It made a lot of sense. And so doing that has really helped me out. It's very similar to a therapist because you're talking things out, you're processing, but it's not therapy. It's really processing out. He's coaching you just like a regular coach would. He's coaching you through a process, and for me, that has really helped me out. The one of the biggest ways he helped me out was with intentional and unintentional. So for me, like if I had to look at those 2 scenarios, that's just how my brain worked. I had to see those 2 things. If I was unintentional with certain things, what would happen? I would be less productive. I would be not consistent. I would kind of fall down the rabbit hole, not being intentional. But when I was intentional, my productivity levels would skyrocket. My love for what I do skyrocket. I just felt more fulfilled with life when I was intentional. When I was intentional with loving my wife and showing her affection and showing her words of affirmation, we as a couple did better. When I was unintentional and I would not pay attention to her, or I was rude or short, there was conflict. And
friction.
So, friction for sure. So that was the number one thing he kind of just showed me, that there for unintentional and unintentional, there's complete results, and there's complete different results and different feelings on how you feel or results. The second thing that I had to start doing is actually I had to start waking up at 5 a.m, which is really difficult because I don't like waking up that early. I was the type of person that would wait till the last very moment, roll out of bed, jump in the shower, get dressed, we get everyone else dressed, and rush to the car, and then barely make it to work. Or I'd make it work on time. I knew I had to leave early. Well, now with let me backtrack. In those seasons when doing that, I was rude. I was short-tempered. I felt like I didn't have a good start to the day.
Yeah.
And I think my wife saw the difference in those mornings when I would wake up at 5 a.m. I would have another cup of tea. I would sit down. I would throw some worship music on, and I would kind of have what you would typically call the devotion. I would read my Bible, but more than that, I would kind of self-reflect on myself. And the other thing that he had me start doing was start repeating I am sentences. Even writing them down. I would start saying, I am successful. I am smart. I am an overcomer. I am resilient. I would just go through all these different things where the paragraph got longer and longer and longer, full of I am sentences. And when things would get rough during the midweek or midday, I would just start telling myself, no, I am overcomer. I am a good husband. I am a good father. I am these things. And I would just start telling myself these things and telling myself and reaffirming these things. And eventually all the weaknesses that would tell me, oh, you're not smart enough or you're not capable and blah, 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 really kind of start dying down.
Yeah.
It was harder to hear that voice in my head versus the voice like, oh no, I am smart. I can do this. I am capable.
Yeah.
I'm more than an overcomer. Like I would start telling myself all of these things, and it really made a big difference in my mental health, in my self-reflection of who I was, and it really kind of just changed for the better for this year on us entering business, being small business owners.
I think that I love that you're saying that because it goes back to the fire that you feed will grow, right? And it's really, I think that's a testament to the power of feeding the right fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so what are some things that you did this year that really helped you out? Like I know you talk about different aids for helping you read and study. But I know you said last week you did like a SWOT analysis. Well, what's a SWOT analysis? What was that?
So SWOT analysis is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I had created one for my mentor, the person that I'm going to be going under when I become a realtor. And when I created one for her, I did it kind of like what we would do for our grants. And then she was like, no, I need you to go a little deeper. And I was like, okay, I could do that. And so I created one specifically again, with my weaknesses, with all of them instead of just 3. Yeah. What you do is you write down your strengths.
And the process is about being really honest.
It's about being really honest with yourself. Yeah. So your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and then your threats. And then you take those things and then you do is to then do toes. Toes. Okay. So basically what you do is you take your strengths and your weaknesses up top, and then you take your opportunities and your threats down at the bottom. And then you kind of like match your strengths and your opportunities and create the strengths to maximize your opportunities. Right. And then you take your weaknesses and your opportunities and you reduce your weaknesses to develop. You reduce your weaknesses to develop your opportunities, right? And then you take your strengths and your threats and you use your strengths to reduce your threats. And then you take your weaknesses and your threats and you avoid threats by reducing your weaknesses.
This is where in a video you start seeing like the E squares and you start seeing all the numbers around your head, and the camera will slowly zoom in and pull into you. And that'd be a very movie moment.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that though.
So basically, and you can find this on YouTube, there's tons of videos on this. It's really important that before you go and dive into a business, that first you do a business plan. That's just like a duh. Come on, guys. If you're going into a business and you're creating a business, do a business plan, look it up. It's fairly simple. There's lots of places you can find them. There's even YouTube videos on how to create them. There's easy. There's templates. There's all kinds of stuff. It is easier than you think. It's just about doing it.
Okay.
It's literally about just watch. You're going to sit there, watch 6 hours of Criminal Minds, or you can watch 6 hours of how to build a business plan on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of switching that intentional, unintentional mindset. But for you, how did how did this help? Like when you wrote down your SWOT analysis, when you went through that, like how did that help you out? Like why is this tool that, because this is the second time you talked about it, and you've talked to me about this multiple times about doing a SWOT analysis, multiple times. But for you, like, why did this help you so much?
Well, because for example, when I went to look at my weaknesses, I thought, okay, how can I better these weaknesses? How can I attack these weaknesses and see them as an opportunity for growth, right? So, okay, there's things that I'm going to be weak at. Everybody's weak at something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce weaknesses to develop my opportunities. How am I going to reduce that? That's the key there in a SWOT analysis. Reduce the weaknesses to develop opportunities. So then what I did was I was very intentional with reducing my weaknesses and tackling them and seeing them as an opportunity for growth, right? Or avoiding my threats by reducing my weaknesses. You're gonna when you have weaknesses, you're gonna be short somewhere, and that means that you're gonna have threats. There are gonna be holes in your businesses that you're not gonna be able to fill, right? Those are threats to your business. So what do you need to do? You need to tackle those weaknesses so that you don't have the holes, those threats in your business, right? And so I was very intentional with attacking my weaknesses as a learning opportunity and see that I can change these weaknesses into strengths.
Yeah.
And of course, again, you're going to have tons of weaknesses, but the purpose and the goal is that you overcome them one by one, because come on, guys, we all need to grow and continue to grow.
Yeah. I think what I liked about this episode is, one, we acknowledge that we all have weaknesses.
Absolutely.
Even if you're watching this and you think, oh man, I'm the bee's knees. No, you got weaknesses too. That's probably it. Just pride. But we all got weaknesses. And I think for sure, you and I have two different strategies for this. I'm more laid back and I'm going to like, oh yeah, I got these. But you know what? I'm just going to beat that with self-worth. I'm just going to tell myself I'm good. And eventually those voices will shut up and I'm fine. You have, no, I got to write everything down. I got to game plan it. I got to do this, do that, do this, and this is my game plan. How to beat this, and boom. Like you just have a totally different perspective than I do. Mine was like chill. I'm sitting down on the couch, listening to some music, drinking some tea. You're yellow legal pad. And I mean, it's clear that we're two different people. But what I like is that.
And Google Doc.
But the good thing is like, there is a plan. There is a way that you can combat this, and understanding. And I think both of us did this in our own way. But we understood what our weaknesses were. Mm-hmm. We understood we were weak somewhere. And then we kind of figured a game plan of how to beat that. Because you're going to have weaknesses. You're just going to. It's, the idea of like, oh, I want to lose weight. And we spend all this time looking at different workout strategies, looking at different things that we need to do to not eat as much or to work out more or whatever. We always find this thing. And the truth is just eat less and work out.
Yeah.
It's very simple to lose weight. It's just doing it. It's very simple to overcome the weaknesses that we all have. It's just doing it. And it's just taking that action to be very intentional with what we have. Yeah.
And I agree. I think that we are all when we're talking here about going into a business, right? Yeah. We're talking about building businesses. And when you're building a business, there's something that goes off in you, right? You're like, I want to build my own business. I want to create something that I am able to control my time, able to control how much money I make, that I'm creating something for my family, generational wealth, whatever it may be that turns you on to becoming a business owner. With being a business owner, you're going to have a lot of amazing strengths. I'm sure that the idea that you have is that you're passionate about it because you know it, right? Juan knows about photography. He knows about videography, and he's passionate about it. And I think about how many business owners are out there and how they're passionate about what they're doing, but maybe they're failing or they're lagging in some area. And I want to tell you, do a SWOT analysis, do a toes, yeah. And really focus and think about what your strengths, what your weaknesses are, what your opportunities are. View your community and think, where is the opportunity in my community? Where is the opportunity for me to grow and remove these weaknesses within my organization, within my store, within my production company, within whatever it may be? How can you better and combat those weaknesses? Yeah. And then also remember that with your weaknesses, you're leaving holes for the threats to come in and destroy something maybe possibly that you've really, really worked really hard for. So just remember that your weaknesses are an opportunity for growth. Yeah. Don't be ashamed of them. You don't know if your story, your weakness can encourage someone else.
Yeah. I think that's a great segue because like those stories as a videographer, I love those stories. I love sitting down with somebody in front of my camera, asking them the questions to pull that story out and to find out that they had XYZ weaknesses. They had this, they grew up in poverty. They maybe grew up in an abused home. They probably had all type of weaknesses internally, mentally, physically. And now they're telling me about how they did this and how they're doing this. And I think it's such a powerful story to hear. And it always encourages me, like, man, I'm so dumb. Like, why am I letting this hold me back when this person's like totally full force and now they're successful? One of the things that, because my biggest weaknesses was not feeling educated enough, my coach had me find millionaires that didn't finish high school and for sure didn't go into college. And there's a lot of people that, obviously, you always think about the Mark Zuckerbergs and Bill Gates, and normally have people that's where they stop. But there's so many more people that become movie stars. I mean, Keanu Reeves, he talked about it a couple of times where he never finished high school, and now Keanu Reeves is one of the biggest actors. Alicia Keys never even got a college degree, and she is by far my favorite female singer. Her voice is so beautiful and like
so soothing.
Yeah, and like to think like, man, she didn't even finish. Like there's so many people in the tech world, in the art industry that didn't go to college and that are doing an amazing in their field. And not that that's for everybody, but it is very an uplifting story to hear someone talk about what they didn't go through or what they did go through, but where they are now. And so you have that story, we have that story, and I'm really, really excited. And the next, one of the things that we've been looking for in the next 3 to 5 years is where we're going to be at. Yeah. And the good thing is like our weaknesses is not holding us back.
Yeah. I think Grant Cardone, I was reading one of his books this month, and one of the things that he says is as you get bigger problems. And I thought when he said that, I thought of like, as you get bigger, you get more weaknesses, right? You get things that you're not even sure what they are. Why is this popping up? And one of the things that I love what he said is you just do it. You identify the issue, you address it, you research, you combat it, and then you just keep going because as you get bigger, you're going to have more and more problems.
Yeah. There's a good quote that says, "Mo money, mo problems." So, hey guys, thank you for watching episode 7. 7. And so please like, subscribe, do all the great things that YouTube would like you to do. If you want to send us a comment. We'll probably be doing a Q&A real shortly. And so write some questions down below. We'll try to answer those probably for the next episode. And then we'll do like an Instagram post or something as well to kind of get you guys' question. We love to know what you guys are thinking. I love seeing your comments. I love seeing people send them messages, and they've been very, very encouraging. So you guys have a good night. Thank you so very much for all you guys that are watching, liking, and doing all the things that YouTube likes.
Also, Spotify, we want to thank you. Spotify.
I would have ended already.
Shut up.